Hello and welcome to an episode of Atomic Vinyl Reviews. My name is Jacob and today I'm doing a quick little unboxing of some bootleg DefoReal X-Plus Godzilla figures. So, here they are in their little packet. Luckily I was able to find some of these from Australia as opposed to China. I think the seller probably just imported a bunch from China and was just upselling them at a slightly higher price, but it did mean they arrived at my doorstep, well actually in my letterbox because it's such a small little packet, a lot faster. So let's get right into this. So these little DefoReal figures are of course copies of and based on those original X-Plus DefoReal figures, but from what I've seen, and obviously from the size of this package, they are a lot smaller. So hopefully it's the right thing in this package. Yeah, there they are. So there is 5 of these little things in here, just nicely bubble wrapped, all in there. Let's get them open and see what they actually look like in person. Okay. So, that's nice. They're actually properly packaged in like a big plastic bag, and they're all individually wrapped in their own little plastic bag, if you guys can see that there. Destroy this packaging now, so you can get at them. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright, let's just go randomly through these and have a quick look at them. So, there's one of our little figures here. I'm not exactly sure what year this one is, but one of the 60s Godzillas by the looks of it. Let's take them out. Alright. Interesting. So, this guy, material-wise, just kind of feeling him, he's solid. That's a really cool thing. This is our first little figure. Material-wise, he feels like a NECA figure. He's made of a slightly bendable, slightly rubberized kind of plastic, but nothing like... It's nothing super squishy or nothing like that, but you guys know what I mean. It's like the same material that NECA figures are made out of, exactly. I would describe it. Detail-wise, actually looking pretty good. Even paint-wise, this one in particular, looking pretty nice so far. Check him out. So, I'm not entirely sure which year this one is from. He looks like the 64, especially because of those eyebrows there. But he's probably just one of the other ones that are around that same time. I don't... There's... With the Showa suits, some of them I don't really remember the years perfectly or anything like that. But I have a general idea of them and stuff like that. But this one might be the one from... I don't know. But he looks nice. I really like the actual texturing on him and the paintwork with that dry brushing, the sort of browns, that it helps really bring out that texture. Pretty good. There's a bit of a seam line running down his front half. But other than that, looks nice. This is actually better than I expected. So for a little chibi DefoReal one, pretty cool for this one. Price-wise, by the way, these things cost around like $25, $30 dues or something like that. At least here in Australia. So for you guys in the US, they would be even cheaper. So these are really, really cheap. Especially considering that like an actual X-Plus DefoReal, they're bloody expensive, I'd say, for what you get. Personally, I've never actually really been a huge fan of the DefoReal line. I don't actually own any to compare these with, but they are bigger. Just putting that out there. The reason I'm not really a huge fan of the DefoReal line is because they cost about half the price, I'd say, of an actual X-Plus, you know, full size, either 20 or 30 centimeter high, you know, sized figure. So they cost about half of that. But what you get is like this weird squished little deformed thing, which like if you're gonna get like a deformed or not really super accurate looking figure, I'm not really just a fan of the sort of these style of figures that much to warrant paying that much for a figure. But if, you know, you get a little pack of these, which costs like $30 dues, then, you know, what have you got to lose? This one is the 64, and if we get him in focus. This one, I'm not a big fan of the look of his face. The 64 Godzilla is actually one of my favorite designs, but this incarnation of him, he looks a bit weird from the side. His mouth. He's got those classic eyebrows. His eyes aren't really painted in all that well. His pupils shouldn't be kind of like off to the side like that. It looks really weird. Especially if the shape of his mouth makes him look a little bit like Donald Duck. It's kind of bizarre. He does come with a little Mothra Lava attached to his tail, so that's how I can definitely confirm this is the 64. Mothra Lava's not the best in terms of paintwork. She's just full brown, but the sculpt, again, because this is a direct copy of that X-Plus one, all done really well. The scaling and the texturing on these figures is actually really nice. The paintwork on the teeth, I'd say, could be done better. Sorry, it's out of focus again. The paintwork on the teeth could be done a little bit better, but I actually really like the color of the whole figure. The way it's actually been dry brushed in this nice brown color. I think that's really effective. And the spines, even though they're all kind of mushed together, the paintwork on those has got a nice sort of airbrushed quality to it. It looks really good. So I think this one, if I touch up the mouth a little bit, fix the eyes, could be a really nice figure. And of course, paint in some details on Mothra here, because she's just like a flat brown all across, which is a bit dull. So there's a 64. This one is our 62. That being the one from King Kong vs. Godzilla. Here he is. It's a nice chunky little figure. Again, all of these are solid, so they're nice kind of heavy figures. He doesn't look bad. This one, he's got a weird sort of face on him. He's got more frog-like amphibious kind of features for a really broad face and just kind of a thicker body and stuff like that. So, especially since he's a little DefoReal figure, it's really kind of showing through. He's got very brown spikes there on his back. They do look nice, actually. But he's got a really weird face, which is how he kind of was in the film. I don't know. This guy's, I'd say a little less nice than some of the other ones. The paint on him, it's got the very brown spikes, which is okay, but he has less of that dry brushing going on in the rest of his body. So he doesn't quite look as nice as some of these two other ones, because the scaling doesn't really pop as well as it did on these ones. But he definitely does look like the 62 Godzilla, which is really good, because he's got a very distinctive design. Most of these don't have anything under their feet as well, so they stripped off all the branding, and they don't really have any texture from what I've seen, at least, of the ones I've opened, but that might change in the future. It's really interesting how these are smaller. I have no idea how they shrunk the molds, because these things should be twice as tall. I think at least for the real deal X-Plus figures. So that's kind of interesting. But we have two more to go. So this one's the one that's been the most controversial, I think, of all of these. And that is the GMK 2001 Godzilla. So let's get him out here. Got a nice texture to the back of his head and the sculpt, but yeah, he is a little bit of a mess. Alright, there is our GMK 2001 Godzilla, and do you see it? Do you see what's wrong with him? Aside from his jaw being really kind of fucked up. They gave him pupils. They didn't have to give him pupils. In fact, it would have been preferable, yet they put in the extra effort just for us. Quality Chinese workmanship right there. Yeah, that is really weird. So, for those of you who don't know, the GMK 2001 Godzilla design should not have pupils. He had white eyes, whited over eyes. And aside from that, his mouth looks a little weird, his jaw's kind of sticking out awkwardly, so that could warrant some repair. Other than that, I like the sculpt. He's got a nice texture. He's kind of in a weird pose, though. I like the scaling on him. Paintwork, I'm not a fan of this either. He's way too light in color. He should be a much darker color, because he was almost black in the film. So this looks kind of off. But I think, perhaps if we do some modifications to him, maybe fix up the jaw, kind of cut off a bit of material, stick it in a little bit more, repaint him, he could be good. Especially if we actually give him those white eyes. So there's a GMK one. He actually has some detailing under his feet, which is nice. You see that there. Interesting. And our final figure here is the anime Godzilla. Came from Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, or Monster Planet, whatever you want to call it. This one's actually pretty nice. So this design is one of the very, very strangest designs of Godzilla. You see him there. But I think they pulled it off really nicely. This really evokes the one from the film. Of course, this is a deformed version, so his head should be tiny compared to his body and all of that sort of stuff, whereas the opposite here. But yeah, you see he's got that really sort of angular design, very strange looking creature. Color-wise, he's pretty accurate to the film. You can see he's also the Godzilla Earth version, not the Phileas one, because he does have that sort of spiky beard going on his chin, which is really nice. Big, wide open mouth. Really nice. I like this one. As I've heard other people that this have so this one's one of the nicer ones of this bunch, and I agree. He's a pretty well done one. So the paintwork, is kind of bland on him because he's only one color. So I think if they actually dry brushed him with something, it would look nice. But the only thing they did was put 2 blue blobs for his eyes, which they did a pretty messy job with. My camera's a bit iffy today, so it doesn't really want to focus, so you'll just have to rewind the video to see that. But the eyes are a bit messy, but for the price and for what you get, this one, not bad. Again, you got kind of floppy spines on this one, if you see that there, because he is made of a softer material, so you can kind of articulate him. And all of these ones also have arms that kind of probably detachable, so by the feeling of it. So I'm kind of afraid to pull it off fully, but they do wobble around, all the arms on all these. But the rest of the bodies on these seem to just be one solid piece, and occasionally the spines, you can tell they're a glued in second piece, like on this one. Height-wise, just to kind of give you guys an idea of how big these are, obviously you can see by how they look in my hands, they are pretty small. But, if I just grab a whole handful of these, and we bring in a Monster Arts figure, you can see these guys are really tiny. These are like easily half the size or less of the actual DefoReal X-Plus figures. So, I don't know exactly why they shrunk them or how they did that or anything like that, but this is actually pretty nice. I think, even though I would have really liked to have seen full-sized bootleg DefoReals, because again, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the DefoReal line, so I'm not going to be paying full price for them. But to have these little little mini ones is actually pretty sweet, especially for the price. So you can just have these; they won't take up too much space, and overall, I'd say these are actually a pleasant surprise for the cost of these. So I recommend these to you guys. So I'm kind of hoping that we see more of these in future, especially for example, the King of the Monsters line, because they're bringing out some new DefoReals for Godzilla King of the Monsters, where there's going to be, Godzilla, of course, and there's going to be King Ghidorah, which looks really cool. That's a DefoReal that I would actually want to get, but again, it is even more expensive than a typical DefoReal because of the 3 heads. And it's too expensive, and it's just a weird scrunched up version of the figure. So I think for just a little cheap thing like this, that's it's really worth it and really cool, and I like the detailing and the sculpt on these things, so, you know, the sculpt carried over really nicely. So I'd say these things are definitely worth it. But those are just some of my thoughts about the DefoReal line, and these figures in particular. So I'm pretty happy with these. They're pretty cool. So do let me know what you think of these figures in the DefoReal line, or are bootlegs just way off your on your no-no list, if you know what I mean. And yeah, thanks so much for checking out this video. I'm not sure if I'm going to be making a full review of these, because I don't have too much more to say on these. I might just do an update video if and when I repaint some details on these, but I might not even do that, because I'm a little bit lazy and I have a few other projects lying around that I'm still in the middle of. So, all in good time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Don't forget to like and or subscribe. It's always awesome when you guys do that. And may all your vinyl be irradiated vinyl. Over and out!